Time for myself and Rachel to look at the big one, the Investec Derby, the 238th running of the Derby, and it will be, with two supplementary entries, the richest race ever run in Britain. And it looks a really open renewal as well. We're going to start with Cracksman for the connections that won this a few years ago. Here is Cracksman, just on the inside, in the Anthony Oppenheimer colours, just getting a little bit held in, I think we should say and point out, by subsequent Dante winner Permian. And then as we roll it on, we'll see he does get out and he does run him down. We know that he has experience at the track. Yeah. Is he a natural on it, Rachel?
I think it's too soon to tell, because the one thing that we should notice before we go on is we watch Permian desperately try and keep Cracksman, and that was a great bit of race riding there. But once Cracksman gets out, I think he handles it fine, because he just rolls on it. An extra 2 furlongs should definitely suit him. And remember, he's a big baby. This was only his second career start. I think he handled all of that with aplomb. But the important thing to note is you see how much Epsom is railed out. Clerk of the course, Andrew Cooper, rails out Trials Day and Oaks Day. So they're actually running more on the cambered hill than they are down on the relatively less cambered flat bit of the track. Come the Derby, there'll be, as Andrew Cooper says, 2 full horse widths of extra virgin ground that's a little bit less cambered than the rest of it. As you see, a lot of Derby winners try and get on that relatively flatter bit of the track. And if Cracksman does it, he might be the one that's going to take all the beating. I
like that. Perhaps it was harder for a more stern test of handling the track for Cracksman that day, given where the rail was, that it actually will be come Saturday afternoon. Let's have a look at Cliffs of Moher for Aidan O'Brien, who he thought, well, I'll run 4 in the Chester Vase, but for the D, I'll just run this boy. And there was a lot of buzz about this horse coming into the race. What did you make of this performance?
Well, he was definitely, of all of the 3-year-olds that the Ballydoyle team brought to the Chester May meeting, he was the talking horse. I thought he handled this in a workmanlike fashion. He didn't win by any great guns. He did it with a little bit in hand, and before and after, both Aidan O'Brien, jockey Ryan Moore, and the Coolmore connections said that he will come on leaps and bounds for this run. I think he's done it in workmanlike fashion. He obviously beat Bay of Poets, the Godolphin runner, into second. Who
we already just seen back in the Investec Derby trial.
I mean, he's the one. He's the quote-unquote first string.
Yes.
They don't normally get that wrong. Coolmore themselves are the record owners in the race with 6 wins. Aidan's won it 6 times. They don't get it wrong. If this is their first string, I'm going to go with them on that.
It was a very, very classy performance on the day, but like you say, he's going to have to improve from that, but there's every chance he will, definitely, given that it's going to be just his third start and given his connections as well. Right, let's move on to Eminent. We've already had a look at one Son of Frankel, and this horse, well, he really... You're grimacing already on Eminent. I quite like it, but he looked really, really good when winning the Craven.
Yeah.
What about this performance?
Well, this is in the 1,000 guineas. You can't really fault him. He finished 3 1/4 lengths 6th behind Churchill. Arguably, Churchill does it in workmanlike fashion on the inside rail in the first colours of Michael Tabor, but to me it didn't really seem like he handled the track again, even though he did in the Craven. He was really impressive there. He just looks a bit of a slow boat in this race, not a miler, but stepping up in trip, trainer Martin Mead and connections suggest that's going to suit, but he didn't have the wow factor this day. I don't know if it was because it was the big razzmatazz day. If that's the case, he's not going to like Epsom. He does get taken up slightly in the last half furlong, but he was beat at that point anyway. I mean, he's one. If I had a horse that could run in the Derby, I would run the horse in the Derby, but...
one thing they did say, one thing Jim Crowley said after he got off in the Craven, we talked immediately to him about going on to the Guineas, and he seemed to say, well, yeah, but he's going to come into his own up in trip, and we saw that in the Craven. I think there were signs of it there, getting outpaced late on, and he was beaten further than he had any right to be, really, given that hampering. So perhaps we need to suggest that this horse, when he goes up in trip, is really going to come into his own.
Yeah, and we also have to say that he was one of the ones who was one of the eye-catching horses when he worked at Epsom during the Breakfast with the Stars morning. He handled the track. In fact, bookmakers thought so much of him that they cut him a few points just on the back of that half half gallop down the track. So he's at least been to Epsom and had a little bit of a gallop over it, unlike most of the other ones in the race who will be seeing it for the first time on Saturday.
Let's have a look at Permian. We've already seen him once, of course, finishing second at Epsom in behind Cracksman, and here he is running at York in the Dante. He's looking to be the first winner of a handicap to go on and win the Derby itself since back in the early 50s, but perhaps we shouldn't look too much into that because more horses seem to be going down that route in recent times, perhaps, and going on to contest the Derby.
Well, if you look at the amount of money now that's being thrown into early season 3-year-old handicaps, they're worth more than some of the listed and group races. So Permian puts in another Permian effort. He's a Mark Johnston trainee. They're always gutsy and gritty and like to go from the front end and will not let another horse pass him. It's great when Godolphin's Ben Balt tries and come up alongside, but he just pins his ears back and go, I love that attitude.
Yeah, he's got all that Johnston attitude.
He just has that absolute knack of it. We know he likes Epsom. He's franked the Cracksman form, having come on to win at the Dante meeting in the Dante. 11 horses have done the double, so he is arguably, as we don't have a Guineas winner, Churchill's not running in the Derby, he is coming out of the best quote-unquote trial from the stats point of view. So I wouldn't put it aside. My main thing, and this is just mine, not connections, not even really the breeding, the way he runs, I don't think he'll be as effective over the full 12 furlongs of Epsom of the Derby, but if I'm wrong, I think he would be a brilliant runner.
I love the fact that Mark Johnson's saying, well, everyone assumes Cracksman is going to confirm that form. Don't be so sure. I like his fighting attitude from Mark Johnson, and he's got a good horse to go to all with in the form of Permian. We have a horse in the form of Dubai Thunder, who's very much an unknown quantity, who we should mention as well. Saib bin Saror sent Lamtara out to win on his second start at the Derby a few years back, and he's looking to do it with the clearly classy Dubai Thunder.
Yeah, remember Lamtara back in 1995 was the last undefeated winner going into the Derby to win the Derby, and well, Dubai Thunder is a perfect 1 out of 1. I mean, that maiden win over 10 furlongs at Newbury just a couple of weeks ago, it was in a full field of 18, so he's handled a big field, which he'll get again on Saturday. He sat close to the pace, and Adam Kirby didn't even move on him, and he just pulled away easily by 10 lengths. Nobody's really come out of the race yet, but over the next couple of days leading up into Epsom, there'll be a couple of horses who ran in behind who are going to have another crack. So I would check to see how their form stands up. I mean, he was absolutely impressive. My one worry was he was a little bit coltish, to put it politely, in the build-up. And obviously it was his debut, but Epsom on Derby Day in the amphitheatre-like of the paddock, and then when they go out to the start, that might just be a little bit too much for him on his second start.
Perhaps he will have got it out of his system after that first start, which was very, very impressive from Dubai Thunder. There's no doubt about that. Really open-looking Investec Derby this year then. And we get the chance now to hear from the main connections of the 238th running of the Investec Derby.
I'm not worried about the trip, which is why we supplemented in early April. We didn't wait for, do we win the Dante, don't we win the Dante, do we spend the prize money, do we not? We just got on and did it. Yes, another race would have been ideal because he goes there light on experience, but luckily his experience is right here at this fascinating enigma of a racecourse.
He's bred well, and everything he does as a horse that has learned, he's picked up what to do. He doesn't seem to me to get sort of phased with anything. And every day that we've gone racing with him, I mean, he's just proved more and more of a proper professional. So I think he has got things to learn, but you know, he's sort of come on so quickly, he should be able to cope with this.
I think we're all looking forward to what is an extremely exciting race and could be a very eventful race this year.
To win, you know, the world's greatest race, and you know, you can go to America and you can go any other place around the world for huge prize money. But this is it, as an Englishman, to be able to come here and win an English classic, you know, at Epsom. I mean, it's just, well, I can't even imagine what it must feel like.